what was your source material for the wall painting?
It's a very good question. What's my source material for this? When you think of the Orthodox Church, most people think, oh, Greece or Russia. But Britain was Orthodox the first 1,000 years before the schism. So I wanted to do something that was related to Britain. So in this particular case, I made the image up, but it was inspired by particularly what's called the Bury St Edmund Gospel. It's a scripture written in Bury St Edmunds in about 1150, I think, illuminated manuscript. So I drew ideas from that, because I wanted it to be something that our Cypriot and Russian brethren could identify. Yeah, that's an icon. But also British people, because actually that looks a bit Romanesque. So this is from the Romanesque period. An interesting question about these beasts here. I've often thought some things, like an icon, is supposed to look like what it represents. So we see this, you see that, and go, oh yeah, that person looks like that. But some things are just so weird, it's to remind us that what we're depicting is just so different we can't imagine it. See, the strange beasts that Ezekiel saw are so weird. Talk about wheels with wings and eyes in them, and so really it's to say like heaven is just more wonderful than you can ever think of. Whereas if we tried to describe what beautiful fruit and lovely greens and that, we would have our little idea what heaven is like, and think that's what heaven is like. So some images are to show us what something is like, some images are to remind us actually it's just incomparable. You notice these funny shadows here on the wall. You probably can't guess, but this is a fresco, a wall painting, painted in 1380 of the martyrdom of Thomas Becket. King Henry said, oh, if I knew something could get me rid of this horrible man. He was Archbishop of Canterbury, and the king was sort of the head of the nation, but Thomas Becket was the Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the church, and sometimes they would conflict. So I don't think the king meant, who's going to kill this man, but some knights took him literally and went and chopped his head off. So there are the 4 knights here. You can see their helmets. The 2 in the front have got their visors up. And you can see a cross there sliced through. Can you see that there? So they basically chopped the top of his head off. Unfortunately, it's covered by the screen, so Thomas Becket is behind there. And I was here when we discovered that. This, you probably heard of Henry VIII, who wanted to get rid of images. So Henry VIII and then Cromwell after, when they came to a church like this, which had paintings on, they would just whitewash them. So they put lime wash everywhere. So when we bought this church 25 years ago, or something like that, it was all whitewashed. And I was working with a professional to sort of make sure that the plaster didn't come off. So every now and then a bit of the plaster would flake off. And we knew that all this stuff was here, but we didn't know there was any figurative stuff. So when I was working up here with Anna, we noticed some strange designs. I think these little dots here. I thought, oh, that's strange. There are no dots elsewhere. So we left it. It wasn't our job to take the plaster off. But about a year later, specialists came and took the lime plaster off, and they discovered that. So we know it's 1380 because those little dots are actually rivets on leather armour. And it was only about a 10, 20-year period that they had that sort of armour, which is how we can date it. At Anglican churches now, we're used to just seeing stone walls, aren't we, white walls. But in fact, most of these churches weren't like that in the old days. They were full of paintings like this. So this gives us a bit of an indication of what churches in England used to be like, with paintings. They didn't have icon screens, but they had what are called rood screens, and they would have had, in most cases, paintings like this on the wall.
So how did you come through the Romans?
The Romans, that's right, yes. So the Romans conquered Britain. In fact, the oldest existing house church in the world is in Britain. It was a Roman villa, and there were 2 rooms that were converted for Christian use. We know because their paintings, probably the families, they all got red hair, adult, male and female and children, and their hands are raised in what's called the orange position. But there's what's called the high road, it's like a P with an X, which is a Christian symbol, like the first 2 letters of the word Christ in Greek. So this was like a private chapel in a Roman villa, and that's the oldest extant house church in the world.
Where is it?
That's Dayton.
Where is it?
It's Lummingston, yeah.
In the south of England?
Yeah.